The air in Greece had grown heavy, as if the gods themselves were holding their breath. The sun, once a golden beacon over the olive groves and marble temples, now seemed dimmed, its light filtered through a haze of unease. Whispers spread like wildfire through the villages, whispers of a terror that turned flesh to stone, of a queen rising from the shadows to claim what the gods had denied her. Her name was Medusa, and her gaze was death. I am Euryale, the forgotten sister. While Medusa's name is etched into the nightmares of mortals, mine is barely a whisper in the wind. I am neither cursed nor blessed, but I am bound to her by blood and by the earth itself. My immortality is a quiet one, tied to the stones and the soil, and for centuries I have watched from the shadows as my sister suffered under Athena's curse. But now, something has changed. It began with the artifact. Medusa found it in the ruins of an ancient temple, a place even the gods dared not tread. It was a shard of Cronus's scythe, the weapon that had once sundered the heavens. When she touched it, the air around her crackled with power and her serpentine hair hissed in unison. I felt it too, a tremor in the earth, a warning. But Medusa did not heed it. "They will pay," she whispered, her voice a venomous melody. "All of them." At first I thought her anger would burn itself out, as it always had. But then the villages began to fall. One by one they turned to stone, not just the people but the trees, the rivers, even the birds in the sky. Medusa's power, once confined to her gaze, now radiated from the artifact, spreading like a plague. She called it justice, a reckoning for the gods who had cursed her and the mortals who had scorned her. I tried to reason with her. "This is not the way," I pleaded, my voice trembling. "You are becoming what they feared." But Medusa only laughed, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. "Fear is power, sister, and I have been powerless for too long." As her conquest spread, the gods retreated to Olympus, their silence deafening. The mortals, abandoned and terrified, turned to their heroes. One name rose above the rest: Perseus, a young warrior with a heart full of courage and a mind sharp as a blade. He vowed to stop Medusa, though he knew not the true extent of her power. I watched him from afar, this mortal who dared to challenge a Gorgon. He was brave, yes, but bravery alone would not save him. He would need more than a sword and a shield. He would need the truth. And the truth was a dangerous thing. The turning point came when Medusa's army reached the gates of Athens. The city, once a beacon of civilization, now stood as a monument to her wrath. The streets were silent, the people frozen in mid-flight, their faces etched with terror. Medusa stood at the center of it all, her eyes blazing with a light that was not her own. "This is only the beginning," she declared, her voice echoing through the stone streets. "The gods will kneel, or they will fall." I knew then that I could no longer stand aside. Medusa was my sister, my blood, but she was no longer the woman I had known. The artifact had twisted her, turning her pain into a weapon that would destroy everything in its path. I had to stop her, even if it meant betraying her. But I could not do it alone. As the sun set over the lifeless city, I made my decision. I would find Perseus, this mortal hero, and I would guide him to the one thing that could defeat Medusa, the shield of reflection, forged by Hephaestus himself. It was a dangerous path, fraught with trials and treachery, but it was the only way. The world of stone and horror had begun, and I, Euryale, would do whatever it took to end it. The path to Perseus was not a road, but a thread of fate, spun thin and fragile across the petrified landscape. I moved like a shadow, unseen and unheard, my bare feet treading lightly on the stone-cold earth. The silence of Greece was a suffocating shroud, broken only by the occasional hiss of wind whistling through the frozen forms of Medusa's victims. It was a silence that screamed of loss, a silence I was determined to shatter. I found Perseus near the coast, his camp a small flicker of defiance against the encroaching darkness. He was younger than I expected, his face etched with a determination that belied his years. He sat sharpening his sword, the firelight dancing in his eyes, a mirror of the turmoil within. He did not see me approach. Mortals rarely do. "Perseus," I said, my voice a whisper that seemed to rise from the earth itself. He startled, leaping to his feet, sword raised. His eyes, wide with a mixture of fear and defiance, searched the darkness. "Who's there? Show yourself." I stepped into the firelight, revealing myself slowly, cautiously. "I am Euryale. I am Medusa's sister." The words hung in the air, heavy as stones. Perseus's grip tightened on his sword, his gaze unwavering. I could see the questions, the accusations, swirling in his eyes. He expected a monster, a gorgon like her. He found only a woman, weary and shadowed by sorrow. "Why are you here?" he asked, his voice tight with suspicion. "To lure me into a trap? To turn me to stone like the others?" "No," I replied, my voice steady despite the tremor in my heart. "I am here to help you, to stop her." He lowered his sword slightly, but his suspicion remained. "Why?" "She is your sister." "She was my sister," I corrected, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. "The artifact, it has changed her, corrupted her. She is not the Medusa I knew." I explained about the shard of Cronus's scythe, the amplified power, the twisted ambition that now drove her. I spoke of villages turned to graveyards, of a queen consumed by vengeance. Perseus listened, his initial hostility slowly giving way to a grudging curiosity. He was a hero, after all, driven by a need to protect, to save. But he was also practical. He knew the odds were stacked against him. "Even if I believed you," he said, sheathing his sword, "how can I possibly defeat her? One look, and I'm stone." "The shield of reflection," I said, the words echoing the oracle's prophecy, though I had not yet revealed its source. "Forged by Hephaestus, it can deflect her gaze. It is the only way." Perseus's eyes narrowed. "And where do I find this shield?" "The Oracle of Delphi," I told him. "She can guide you, but be warned, Perseus, the path to the Oracle is not easy. And even if you find the shield, it will require more than strength to wield it." He nodded, his resolve hardening. "I will go to Delphi. I will face whatever trials await me." He paused, then looked at me, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. "But why are you doing this? Why betray your own blood?" The question, though expected, still stung. I looked away towards the petrified forest that stretched towards the horizon, a testament to my sister's madness. "Because loyalty to family should not blind us to justice," I said softly. "Because sometimes the greatest act of love is to stop the one you love from destroying themselves and the world." He looked at me with understanding, then said, "I need to get to Delphi, and you have offered to lead the way. I will trust you for the good of Greece." With that, our uneasy alliance was forged. We set off under the cover of darkness, leaving behind the flickering embers of his camp. The journey to Delphi was long and perilous, a landscape of stone and sorrow. But with each step, a sliver of hope, fragile as a newborn bird, began to beat within my chest. The oracle's whisper carried on the wind was a promise and a warning. The path to redemption was paved with sacrifice, and the fate of Greece rested on the shoulders of a hero and a Gorgon's remorseful sister. The stone. Silence remained, but now it was punctuated by the soft, determined rhythm of our footsteps, a counterpoint to Medusa's symphony of despair. The awakening of stone had begun, but the awakening of hope was just beginning. Delphi was a sanctuary, a place where the veil between the mortal and divine realms was thin. But even here, Medusa's shadow loomed. The once vibrant town was eerily quiet. The colorful marketplace, now a gallery of stone figures, their expressions frozen in eternal surprise. The air, usually thick with incense and the murmur of prayers, was heavy with a chilling stillness. We reached the Temple of Apollo, its towering columns casting long, skeletal shadows in the fading light. The entrance was guarded, not by priests, but by creatures of myth. 2 harpies, their wings ragged, their eyes burning with predatory hunger. They were guardians, set by the oracle, or perhaps by the gods themselves, to test those who sought her wisdom. Only the worthy may pass. One screeched, her voice a grating shriek. Prove your hearts are pure or join the silent chorus of the damned. Perseus drew his sword, his face set in grim determination. We seek only guidance, not conflict. Guidance is earned, not given, the other harpy hissed, circling above us. Face your trials, mortal, or face our wrath. I stepped forward, my hand resting on the earth, drawing strength from its ancient power. We are not here to fight you, I said, my voice calm but firm. We are here to save Greece from a greater evil. Let us pass and we will show you our worth. The harpies exchanged glances, their beady eyes assessing us. Then, with a rustle of their leathery wings, they launched their attack. It was not a battle of brute force, but a test of character. The first harpy dove at Perseus, claws extended, forcing him to defend himself. The second flew at me, her shriek a sonic assault that threatened to shatter my resolve. Perseus fought with skill and courage, his movements precise and economical. He did not seek to kill, but to disarm, to prove his strength without succumbing to bloodlust. I, on the other hand, used my connection to the earth to evade the harpies' attacks. I summoned vines from the cracked pavement, creating a living barrier that deflected her claws. I did not strike back, but instead offered the creature a silent plea. A glimpse of the devastation Medusa had wrought, of the world that needed saving. The harpy, momentarily stunned by the vision, faltered in her attack. I saw a flicker of something other than hunger in her eyes. Perhaps pity, perhaps understanding. It was enough. The first harpy, seeing her sister hesitate, landed before Perseus, her head cocked. You fight with honor, mortal, she rasped, but courage alone is not enough. The second harpy landed beside her, her gaze fixed on me. And you, Gorgon sister, she said, her voice surprisingly gentle. You carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, but sorrow alone will not save it. They stepped aside, their wings drooping. The oracle awaits, the first harpy said. But be warned, her words are not always clear, and her price is always high. We entered the temple, the air growing thick with the scent of myrrh and something older, something primal. The oracle sat on a golden tripod, her eyes glowing with an ethereal light. She was ageless, her face a mask of serene wisdom. Perseus, she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. You seek the shield of reflection, but to wield it, you must first face your own reflection, your past failures, your hidden fears. She gestured towards a dark pool of water at the center of the chamber. Gaze into the abyss and confront your darkness. Only then will you be worthy. Perseus hesitated, his gaze drawn to the pool. I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes, a shadow of some past trauma. He stepped forward, slowly, reluctantly, and peered into the water. What he saw I could not know, but I saw his face contort in pain, his body tremble with suppressed anguish. He cried out, a sound of raw, unadulterated grief. He saw himself, younger, failing to protect someone he loved. It was not a physical battle he had lost, but a lack of resolve and a moment of weakness had cost a life. It was the moment that spurred him to become a hero, and the constant darkness he had to live with. He staggered back, his eyes wide with horror. I cannot, he whispered, his voice broken. The oracle watched him, her expression unchanging. The shield demands truth, Perseus. You cannot hide from yourself. He closed his eyes, his fists clenched. Then with a deep breath, he opened them again, his gaze resolute. I will not hide, he said, his voice stronger now. I will face my failures. I will learn from them. He stepped back to the pool, and this time he did not flinch. He gazed into the darkness, confronting his past, accepting his flaws. And as he did, the water began to glow, reflecting not his image, but the image of the shield of reflection, shimmering with celestial light. The oracle nodded. You have faced your darkness, Perseus. You are worthy. She turned to me. Uriele, she said, her voice softer now. Your path is different. You seek not a weapon, but redemption. For yourself and for your sister." She gestured towards a small, unassuming stone tablet on the floor. "This tablet holds the key to severing Medusa's connection to the artifact. But to use it, you must confront her, not with force, but with love. You must remind her of who she once was before the curse, before the pain." I picked up the tablet, its surface cool to the touch. It was inscribed with ancient symbols, a language I instinctively understood. The language of the earth, of connection, of healing. "The path ahead is fraught with danger," the oracle warned. "Medusa's power is immense, and her heart is hardened. But if you can reach her, if you can remind her of her humanity, you may yet save her." And Greece. We left the temple, armed not with weapons but with knowledge and a fragile hope. The trials had tested us, stripped us bare, and revealed our true selves. Perseus had faced his darkness, and I had been given a chance to redeem my sister. The final confrontation loomed, a terrifying prospect, but we were ready. The fate of Greece, the fate of Medusa, rested on our shoulders. The whisper of the oracle, now a resounding call, echoed in our hearts. The time for the final act in our tragedy to begin. Medusa's stronghold was a perversion of beauty, a temple once dedicated to Athena, now a monument to despair. It rose from the heart of Athens, its marble columns stained with the shadows of petrified victims. The air crackled with the raw power of the Titan's shard, a palpable force that pressed down on us like a physical weight. We moved through the silent halls, Perseus with the shield of reflection held before him, its surface gleaming like a captured moonbeam. I followed close behind, the stone tablet clutched in my hand, its ancient symbols humming faintly against my skin. Every statue we passed was a silent accusation, a reminder of my sister's descent into madness. We found Medusa in the temple's central chamber, standing before a massive altar that pulsed with dark energy. She was surrounded by her most loyal followers, stone soldiers animated by the artifact's power, their eyes burning with an unholy light. She looked different, grander. The artifact now radiating such power it made it hard to even look at her. "Sister," I said, my voice echoing through the chamber. "It is not too late. Stop this madness." Medusa turned, her serpentine hair hissing, her eyes blazing with the artifact's power. "You dare betray me, Euryale?" she hissed, her voice laced with venomous scorn. "After all I have suffered? After all they have done to me?" "They wronged you," I agreed, my voice trembling but firm. "But this is not justice. This is destruction. This is not the path you chose. It's the path the artifact has forced upon you." Perseus stepped forward, the shield of reflection deflecting Medusa's gaze. "It ends here, Medusa," he declared, his voice ringing with the authority of a hero. "Release your hold on Greece, or face the consequences." Medusa laughed, a chilling sound that sent shivers down my spine. "You think you can defeat me, mortal? I am invincible. I will crush Olympus and claim my rightful place among the gods." She raised her hands and the stone soldiers around her stirred, their weapons raised. The artifact pulsed, and a wave of petrifying energy washed over us. Perseus held firm, the shield of reflection deflecting the deadly gaze, protecting us both. "Medusa, please," I cried, stepping towards her. "Remember who you were. Remember, the sister who loved you, who shared your pain, who mourned your fate. This is not you." I held up the stone tablet, its symbols glowing brighter now, channeling the earth's energy, the energy of connection, of healing. I poured all my love, all my sorrow, all my hope into the ancient words inscribed upon it. Medusa hesitated, her eyes flickering, the artifact's power momentarily dimming. I saw a flicker of the woman she once was, a glimpse of the pain and vulnerability that lay beneath the monstrous facade. I cannot," she whispered, her voice cracking. "The artifact, it controls me. It will not let me stop." "You are stronger than it," I insisted, tears streaming down my face. "You are stronger than the curse, stronger than the pain. You are Medusa, my sister, And you are not a monster." I reached out to her, my hand trembling, and for a moment, just a moment, she reached back, but the artifact surged, its power overwhelming. Medusa cried out, a sound of pure agony, as the dark energy enveloped her. The stone soldiers advanced, their weapons poised to strike. Perseus, seeing his chance, moved with lightning speed. He did not strike at Medusa, but at the altar, smashing the source from where the artifact drew extra energy. Medusa screamed. The chamber shook, the air crackling with unleashed power. The stone soldiers crumbled, their animation fading, returning to lifeless statues. Medusa collapsed to her knees, her serpentine hair writhing in pain, her eyes dimming, returning to their natural hue. The artifact, its connection to Medusa severed, fell from her grasp, its light extinguished. It was not destroyed, but inert, its power contained. I rushed to Medusa's side, cradling her in my arms. She was weak, vulnerable, stripped of her power, but she was alive. She was my sister again. "Euryale," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I am sorry." Tears streamed down my face as I held her close. "I know," I said softly. "I know." The petrified victims throughout Greece began to stir, the stone crumbling from their bodies, returning them to life. The world, held captive in a silent, stony nightmare, began to breathe again. Medusa, now mortal and stripped of her terrifying power, chose exile. She could not bear to face the world she had ravaged, the people she had harmed. She would wander the earth seeking atonement for her actions, haunted by the memories of her madness. I chose to accompany her. I could not abandon her, not after all we had been through. We would walk together, two sisters bound by blood and by sorrow, seeking redemption in a world forever changed. Perseus, hailed as a hero, returned to rebuild Greece, to heal the wounds Medusa had inflicted. He carried the weight of his victory with a heavy heart, knowing the cost of freedom, the price of power. The artifact will be hidden, and hopefully, lost. The story of Medusa's conquest became a legend, a cautionary tale whispered throughout the ages. It was a reminder of the corrupting influence of vengeance, of the destructive power of unchecked ambition. But it was also a story of redemption, of the enduring strength of familial love, of the hope that even in the darkest of times, even in the heart of a monster, a flicker of humanity can remain. And as Euryale and Medusa walked into the unknown, the faint glow of the hidden artifact, buried deep within a forgotten labyrinth, served as a silent, ever-present reminder. The power to destroy and the power to heal always lie within our grasp. The choice ultimately is ours.